I mean, just look at this right here. If you were to buy from here, you would have to pay 20 times the amount of fees as if you bought from. How's it going, everyone? My name is Matt, and welcome back to Matt's Crypto. Today, I'm going to save you guys a bunch of money, and I'm not even kidding. If you guys want to know how to save 20 times the amount you would pay in fees from one location to another, stick around in this video. I'm going to show you guys all of the centralized exchanges, aka every place you can buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and a bunch of other altcoins from. And we're going to talk about these ETFs, how those prices compare to some of these centralized exchanges. This is going to show you exactly where you need to go to buy crypto of any kind that you want and how to save the most money by paying the least amount of fees while doing so. As you can see right here, I have the top 6 exchanges. These are centralized exchanges, and keep in mind, these are all exchanges you can use in the United States. As someone who lives in the United States, and for most of you watching this who live in the United States, it's important that you have access to these exchanges because for most of the people that are watching this around the world, you're probably going to use something like Binance because it's the most widely accepted and there's not a lot of restrictions in terms of what you can do with Binance. But for us US folks who have way more restrictions in place, these are the top exchanges you can use, and we'll look exactly how these differ for us in the US. So first, let's talk about the fees. This is the most important part of this video, but it's only one part of it because we'll get to the actual differences in these fees later in the video and some other things you don't want to miss out. So make sure you watch all the way to the end. But first, you can see crypto.com has 0.08 fees for both new traders and for 10 to 50K in volume. So how this usually works is most centralized exchanges go off of a 30-day trade volume. So if you were to trade between $10,000 and $50,000 of trade volume over the course of the last 30 days, you'll pay a different fee than you would pay than if you were a brand new trader. You can see right here, Zero would have a 0.2 to 0.4 fee, as where if you traded $25,000 prior to your next trade, you have to pay between 0.10% and 0.30%, which is a pretty significant difference when you start to go down this list. So you can see right here, this is what we call a fee schedule. This is Gemini's fee schedule. This one right here is Coinbase's fee schedule. And this is the fee schedule for Kraken. But don't worry about all those fee schedules. I've bulleted it all down and made it very easy for you. So most of you watching this video are either brand new to crypto as a new trader, or you've probably traded between $10,000 and $50,000, or let's just say under $50,000 worth of volume in the last 30 days. If you traded more than that, you probably know more about this stuff and you probably don't need this video made for you. So I have the new trader fees over here in this column, and then I have fees as if you were trading between $10,000 and $50,000 of volume in the last 30 days. So you can see right here, crypto.com does not have any difference. If you have traded anywhere from $0 to $50,000, you're going to be paying that 0.08% fee. And as we'll find out in just a second, this is one of actually the best fee out of all these centralized exchanges on this list. KuCoin, same thing, same fees for a new trader versus 10 to 50K. Now, Kraken has a little bit different. If you're a new trader, it's 0.16. If you are making the trade, and if you are taking someone else's trade, you are 0.26. If you don't know how that works, don't worry about it too much. Generally speaking, just assume that most of the time you're going to be paying the higher fee as a taker fee, but just know that it has a range. So that is a pretty big range when you get into higher dollar amounts. I've put both of them here so you can see both of them. They have a slightly lower fee for those who've traded more volume up to $50,000. Gemini starts a little bit higher here, 0.2 to 0.4, and then 0.10 to 0.30, which is much better than the 0.2 to 0.4. It's literally half if you are starting on that maker fee. So that's pretty good. Binance US is interesting because it is free trades for Bitcoin, but as we'll note in a second, in the downsides to Binance US, there are some issues with this because right now you cannot trade in US dollars. You can only trade crypto to crypto pairs. For example, USDC to Bitcoin or ETH to Bitcoin. You cannot trade Bitcoin to USD. So that's a big issue we'll talk about in a second, but it is free trades for Bitcoin, and then the fees from there go significantly higher for other cryptos that are not Bitcoin. And then Coinbase, unfortunately, even though it is the biggest, it is the most well-known, probably the most trusted in the US, it has fat fees. 0.6 to 1%. 1% doesn't sound like a lot, but believe me, we'll do an example in a second here. You'll see that 1% is quite a hefty fee. And then if you have more trading volume, it goes down a little bit. But again, these numbers, even with the higher trading volume, are higher than every other item on this list. And so overall, you can see right here that I've listed them exactly how they should be in terms of the least expensive fees to the most expensive fee. That's not the whole story. Let's say, for example, you didn't want to trade Bitcoin, and so the free Bitcoin on Binance US doesn't matter to you. You want to trade some crazy altcoin like Dog with Hat, or you want to trade some L1 like Solana. Well, we need to make sure that these exchanges actually have those coins. So we can see here, I've listed out what each of these exchanges has in terms of the amount of coins. You can quickly see that KuCoin has by far the most coin and coin trading pairs available. 729 different coins available to trade on KuCoin, as where Coinbase has 248. So it has about a third of the amount of coins available that you have on KuCoin. So if you wanted to trade something like Dog with Hat, unfortunately, Coinbase doesn't have that listed yet. It does have Bonk, which is a lower cap meme coin, but it does not have some of these other coins like Pepe, which some of these other places might actually have. So you can see Binance US and Gemini are definitely lagging in this area. They have the least amount of coins available, and KuCoin, Crypto.com pretty much have the most available, and then Kraken and Coinbase have a pretty solid amount, but nowhere near the 700 that KuCoin has. The next ranking here is security, and this is a website called Sur.live. This is a site that goes and does different types of security tests for cryptocurrency exchanges. And if you go to this site, you can do all the different kind of sorting here, see what they have, the security rating, the penetration test, proof of funds, bug bounty. You can look into how all that stuff works. The long and short of it is they give a security rating based on all of these different tests they do to determine whether or not these exchanges are safe to use. You can see that Crypto.com, Coinbase, Binance US, and Kraken all have a great rating of AAA. Then going down, KuCoin has an A rating, and for some reason, Gemini has a BB rating, which is not as good as any of these other ones. You would think that Gemini would have a better rating because it's the Winklevoss twins that own Gemini. They seem trustworthy. They've been around for forever, but for whatever reason, they do not have a higher rating. Because of one of the tests that Sur.live has run, they've rated them lower. So keep that in mind. I don't think it's a big issue, but it's something to be aware of. The last thing I like to look at is each individual exchange and talk about the pros and cons that are the nuances that you wouldn't understand or wouldn't see if you were just looking at this piece of information right here, right? So far we can see Crypto.com has gold in every category. They have great security, they have a lot of coins, and they have cheap fees. KuCoin, most coins, great fees, solid rating, and you can see that some of these other ones don't have as many of the benefits in terms of the fees, but they have great ratings and they have a good amount of coins. But let's look at some other things that might differentiate some of these, right? So real quick, if you want access to this chart to go and play with the numbers, check it out, do some more research on your own. All of these assets are available only for my private members in my VIP community. Link is down below at matscrypto.com. Join us. It's literally $1 a day to join right now. It's probably the cheapest membership you're going to find on crypto, YouTube, crypto, Twitter. And I provide all kinds of different assets. We have an airdrop farming spreadsheet, which is just loaded with value. So far, I've claimed up to $3,600 worth of airdrops in the first 2 months of doing this. And there are many more on the way. So if you want to join us, please do. matscrypto.com. We'll see you guys in there. Pros for Crypto.com. It does have the best fees, and that's one of the things I've listed because really this video is about saving money. And so when you're looking at just pure best fees, Crypto.com is your spot to go. I'll be honest with you, I have barely ever used Crypto.com. I do not trust them nearly as much as someone like Coinbase or even Kraken that has a better reputation in this space. But nonetheless, they have the best fees. They also have great sign-up bonuses. They have a whole rewards program with benefits from their Crow coin. I do not hold any of the Crow coin. I never intend to hold any of the Crow coin. You can see that this coin has done pretty much what other coins have done so far. They peaked out in January of 2021 or late 2021, sorry, and they have come down significantly since then. I don't think it's a knock on the coin necessarily. I just don't particularly have any interest in owning it. Some of the cons here are that even though it does have really great trading fees, they also include transaction fees. So withdrawals and from withdrawing to other fiat currencies like USD, Euro, there are fees and withdrawal fees associated with this site. So that could impact greatly what your total cost is to use and trade on Crypto.com. It's also not available in Washington or New York State. state. A little weird, but if you live in those states, which a lot of people live in New York, to be honest, a lot of people live in New York. So it's possible that you're one of those people and this is completely not useful for you because you can't even use it in New York. KuCoin, the one major thing I want to talk about with KuCoin, obviously it has a bunch of coins available. It's probably the place you're going to go to if you want to trade meme coins and alternative, smaller microcap coins. If you use the KuCoin native token, you can also get discounts for trading on KuCoin, which would be 20% or up to 20% off of these fees, which would make it the same as, if not better than in some circumstances, than crypto.com. So the chance for it to be very, very cheap is there. The only thing that's an issue right now with KuCoin is that because there's no KYC and they've gotten cracked down on in the US, there currently is no fiat trading. In other words, again, you cannot trade USD into cryptocurrency and you cannot withdraw cash from KuCoin. So if you wanted to go and trade Bitcoin and then sell your Bitcoin and cash out to your bank account, you can't do that on KuCoin. Not possible right now. You can only send in stablecoins like USDC, USDT, Tether in there, trade them, and then send them out to somewhere else and cash them out on another exchange or another location. You cannot do that on KuCoin. So this is going to be basically your hub to trade smaller cap coins that aren't available in these other places for a very cheap fee, but there is some more workaround to actually get a cash out once you're done trading. Kraken is one of my favorite on this list. They have futures trading, they have margin trading, which KuCoin also has, but they've had this and it's more of a reliable, let's just say it's got a better reputation than KuCoin. They have pretty low fees overall, and especially if you get above 50K trading volume, the fees become really, really competitive with these other places. The other thing that's notable is that Washington, New York, once again, do not have Kraken. I don't know what's going on in Washington and New York, but they have Kraken down. Okay, leave me a like for that pun in the comments. From these two states for whatever reason, and you cannot trade there. It also, one thing that I've had an issue with is it's limiting you to $10,000 via ACH deposits per week. If you want to go and put in $50,000 and then dollar cost average in over the course of 6 to 10 months, you'd have to go and do $10,000 every week if you want to do via ACH. If you want to do a wire transfer, which usually costs $30 to transfer a wire, or depends on what your bank is, and it's a little bit less instant than a ACH transfer, definitely a lot less easy to do, that will be a way to go and transfer in more. But again, it's going to cost you a fee to do that, and it's slower and it's more involved. This, you can connect Plaid with your ACH, with your bank account, super easy, instant deposit, instant trading. You can't withdraw those funds right away, but you can trade with them right away and it's free. So I don't love that it's $10,000 a week. I wish it was $50,000 a week. And even at the highest security ranking, so if you put in, the highest security level of information on the site, you still can only do $10,000 a week. So that is one limitation if you're going to try to trade a bit more than this, 10 to 50K volume. That's something to look out for. Gemini has a pretty solid mobile app. One of the things that's great about Gemini is it's actually available in New York. It's available in every US state, which is also the case with Coinbase. So those are definitely two to look for. If you are in Washington, New York, you're basically going to have to choose one of these two. And so keeping that in mind, it's got great security, even though it's got the rating that's not as great. I believe it's got great security. They do a lot of things that are very, very meticulous in terms of their cold storage and the way that they store all of the coins on their site. As I said, the Gemini exchange is owned and founded by the Winklevoss twins. You might know them from the two that created Facebook before Zuckerberg came and kind of swooped the idea from them. But they have been in this space a long time, and they are some trustworthy icons in this space. So for that reason, they have a bit more trustworthiness than some of these other places potentially do. The only thing I don't like about Gemini and the fact that it has very little coins is that the fees are definitely a bit more expensive than these other three we've listed already. So there's that. But if you are in New York, this is probably one of the best options you have. Binance US was my go-to. This was the best site. It was free to trade Bitcoin. These fees were at one point much better than this, and you could get a discount using BNB, the native token BNB. You can get 5% off those trading discounts as well. And so that made the fees really, really good at one point. Now the fees have come up quite a bit, and unfortunately, just like KuCoin right now because of this SEC crackdown. You cannot trade, you cannot deposit, you cannot withdraw USD on Binance US right now. I also just don't trust the situation because they are under scrutiny from the SEC. Whether it's valid or not doesn't really matter. I don't love what the FUD has been about Binance US, and because you can't even get your coins transferred to cash, you can't trade with USD anymore. This has become non-usable to me, unfortunately. I did trade on it quite a bit before all this stuff unfolded, and it was probably my top pick up until recently. But now with the way things are, I would probably steer clear of Binance US if you're in the US. If you are not in the US, you don't have to worry about Binance US. You can just use regular Binance, which has significantly more coins, way different trading, fee structure, and it's a lot different. So don't even worry about this if you're in the US. I would say it's a non-factor. The last one is Coinbase. This is the one that most of you have probably dabbled with or heard about or have used in the past. It's got a good number of coins. It's probably the most reliable on here. It's been around the longest. It's a publicly traded company in the US, so it has regulations to some degree. We can see the financials. We can kind of see what they're doing in the back end. There's a lot more transparency with this. Brian Armstrong is also one of the OGs in this space, probably more trustworthy than some of these other people that run these other companies. And I would say that they have really good UI for both beginners and for advanced traders. The only thing that's a problem with Coinbase right now is these fees. This fee is bad. 0.6 to 1%. If you look at these, right, just do some quick math. 0.1 to 1. 10 times. That's 10 times higher fees for Coinbase than KuCoin. Just as an example, right? If you're doing Kraken, something like 5 to 7 times more expensive to use Coinbase. So even though I love everything about it, I really do. There's not even this limit deposit, right? I could deposit $100,000 tomorrow instantly and trade it right away if I wanted to on Coinbase. Love that. The only thing is that the fees are just absurd. They are just absurd when you're comparing them to other options out there. Now, one good thing to note is because the ETFs just came out, and we'll look at this in just a second here, I do believe these fees are going to come down. So let's hop over to the ETFs and see how those fees compare and why I think a lot of these fees right here are going to drop over the next 6 to 18 months. So here on the left side, I've listed 4 of the 9 or 10 or however many new ETFs have come out. I've listed Grayscale, Franklin, Van Eck, and BlackRock. These are probably some of the most popular ones that are traded so far. I personally love the ticker HODL from Van Eck. Can't think of a better freaking ticker to have than that one. It's just so easy to remember, and it's just so in tune with what we are as a community. So really big fan of this one. You can see all the fees right here. We have 1.5% for Grayscale. 1.5%. Now, to note, Grayscale was a Bitcoin trust that converted to an ETF. So it's different than these other ETFs that just got filed. And for that reason, it's still trying to charge a lot of fees because they had a ton of assets under management, and they're going to collect a fat paycheck from that fee amount while they have those assets still. This will probably come down more. It was actually 2% at one point. I think this will come down even more. You can see right here that all these fees are going to be the same, whether you're trading as a new trader or a huge volume trader, because this is the stock market. It's a little bit different than these centralized exchanges because we're only trading Bitcoin right here and we're doing it as an ETF. So keep that all in mind. The amount you trade doesn't make a difference. But the lowest ETF is 0.19%, and that is EasyBT. Then Van Eck and BlackRock both have a 0.25% rate. So you can see here how this compares, 0.25, 0.19. This is in the range of the middle of the centralized exchanges, right? It's between this KuCoin at 0.1 and Kraken at up to 0.26. It's within those. So they all fall right in here, number 3, between number 3 and number 4 in terms of the fees overall. Now, you have to remember that these are ETFs. There's only one coin here. It's Bitcoin. That's the only one you can trade. And they all have the same kind of pros and cons, right? They have easy management. You don't have to worry about cold storage. You don't have to worry about fees while trading, buying and selling these exchange traded funds. You can keep them in retirement accounts, which you can't really do very easily with other crypto. So there are really good benefits in terms of someone who doesn't want to have to deal with all of the, holding your seed phrase, keeping it safe, putting it on a hardware wallet, not going on sketchy sites. All these things, you don't have to have that accountability and responsibility and worry about where to put your coins, how to hold them, how to take care of everything, that kind of stuff. But at the same time, you are going to be paying a fee yearly to have someone else do that for you. And you can see some of these right here, like Franklin and BlackRock, both have some, gimmicks that they have going on where they have no fees for the first 8 months. And then BlackRock has no fees for the first year or $5 billion, up to $5 billion in assets under management under this ETF. So if you are someone who's buying Bitcoin for the first time, and you don't want to deal with all of the logistics of buying and owning and holding and safely, custodying your asset, specifically Bitcoin in this case, you probably want to look at doing one of these ETFs because they are one of the best options in terms of pricing against a centralized exchange. Now, if you're going to trade these a bunch, these become really, really worthwhile because you're not going to pay a fee every time you trade it. It's free to trade, but there is a management fee. So all these fees right here, keep in mind, are not per transaction, they're per year. So if you're going to hold these for a long time, then these fees will become a little bit worse than if you were going to trade one time per year for these other locations. Or if you trade it once per 5 years, then the ETFs become much more expensive. So these are numbers to keep in mind when you're deciding how much you're going to be trading, how often, if you're a long-term holder, or if you're going to be trying to trade in and out as things ebb and flow. These are all things to consider when you're looking at what you want to purchase. The only thing I will say about the ETFs is that the truth is if you're buying an ETF, you are not buying crypto. You are not buying Bitcoin if you are buying an ETF. You are buying a piece of paper that says, I owe you, or I am holding 1 Bitcoin on your behalf. But truthfully, as we'll always say, if it's not your keys, if you do not have the seed phrase and the wallet that holds your coins, they are not your coins. We've seen this time and time again, unfortunately, with things like FTX going under, Celsius going under, all these other, crypto, behemoths that go under because they just get greedy and they don't do the proper, responsible thing with people's coins. And next thing you know, those coins are no longer yours because you never had them in the first place. The only way to ever truly have your coins is to custody them yourself. So keep that in mind. I don't think it's going to be too big of a deal because this is all going to be regulated. And I don't see any reason why they wouldn't, do what they say they're going to do because these are huge, huge, huge asset managers. They're not FTX brand new coming to the space. It's not like that in this case. So I don't think there'll be an issue, but the truth is they aren't your coins unless you have the key. So that's another thing to keep in mind. It's a huge difference between buying off an exchange and holding them yourself. Okay. We've talked about all of the pros and cons of each one. Each use case might be a little bit different depending on what you want to do, what you want to buy, how you want to hold it. But let's go and look at the actual fees we'll be paying in year 1 if we were to buy each of these separately. You can see right here, we've listed them as we had before. And you can go and see no matter what amount you have, let's say you invested $50,000 in the first year. You bought Bitcoin for $50,000 and that's all you did. What you would pay in fees between crypto.com at $37.50 versus something like Grayscale at $750. That is the difference in fees you're going to pay in just the first year alone to buy $50,000 worth of Bitcoin. Now, if you're going to buy a different asset, then obviously these ETFs will not be in the conversation. So if you're going to buy, let's say, $25,000 worth of Ethereum, you can see that you'd pay $18.75 on crypto.com and you'd pay $112.50 on Coinbase to buy that same Ethereum. So keep all of these things in mind when you're going to buy. Now, if you're buying smaller amounts like $100, the difference between 8 cents and 80 cents is not much. It's under $1. But the truth is 8 cents to 80 cents is a 10 times more expensive purchase. It's 10 times more in fees from one to the other. And as you start to scale that in terms of your trading volume, especially if you're trading in and out of these coins, you basically have to double all of these numbers because this is just for one trade, right? One trade at this amount. Or in other words, trading a volume of this amount. So if you did 2 trades, right? If you traded Bitcoin for $50,000 in, and then you sold it for $50,000 for $100,000 total, you can see here what those differences would look like. I just got to say, like if you just do a couple sweeps over this chart, you're going to find out very quickly that where you purchase, especially if you're purchasing often, these numbers really, really will add up over time, really will add up. We're talking about hundreds, if not thousands of dollars of difference depending on where you purchase. Now, I would say as a pretty much rule of thumb, don't even think about buying from GBTC because the numbers here are just astronomical. 1.5% all the way through is never going to be a good choice when you have all these other options. If you're going to buy an ETF, I would consider doing any of these bottom three. A 0.19 to 0.25 difference. And these two also have some benefits where there's no fees for the first 8 to 12 months. So if you want to take advantage of that right now while buying in earlier, that is where I would go. I would go to EasyBT or iBit. And then long term, after the first 12 months, any of these three are a good option. That's where I would say to go because you're going to see that the fees here really aren't much of a difference in terms of the first year. Obviously, if you're holding super long term, then you probably want to focus on which one's the most affordable and which one you trust the most overall. If you're going to be buying from an exchange, here are my rankings overall. In terms of the cheapest, I already have them listed from cheapest to most expensive. But in terms of my overall rank, which considers the fees, the trustworthiness, the security, the amount of coins available, and all the pros and cons we've talked about today, I would say that at the moment, Kraken and Coinbase are my top two picks. I use Kraken the most because it has the slight edge in terms of the fees. Now, for me, I usually trade in the 10 to 50K volume range over the course of 30 days. Now, obviously that doesn't happen every 30 days for me, but when I'm trading a lot and frequently, those fees and the difference between 0.55 to 0.24 is literally 2x. So if I was going to go ahead and spend $100,000, we're looking at the difference between $190 worth of fees and $450. So we're talking about a $260 savings in 30 days if I'm trading $100,000 worth of volume. And even though against $100,000, $260 is not that much. But if you go and throw that $260 into something like Dogwiffe had around, I don't know, 8 cents, and it goes up to 40 cents in a matter of 2 weeks, that $260 is now worth almost $1,300. And we haven't even hit the bull market yet. So all I'm saying is every dollar counts, especially when you're in this for the long run, if you're trading frequently, if you really care about saving money, which is what this channel is all about, then I highly suggest you guys look at this chart, decide what's best for you. And like I said, I think Kraken and Coinbase are the two that I use most often right now because of the overall scope that they provide. But before we head out, I want to tell you guys why I think Coinbase is going to drop their fees significantly in the next 6 to 18 months. This is all of the different Bitcoin ETFs and all of the fees that they charge, ranging from 0.19% all the way up to, like we said before, 1.5%. But the majority of these, as you can see, are already around that 0.25%. And if we go back over here, we can see that Coinbase, again, for a new trader who wants to buy Bitcoin for the first time, they're going to be paying anywhere up to 4 times the amount, 1% that they would pay with any of these ETFs or, one of the major ETFs. Pick any one you like. And it's about 3 to 4 times more expensive to buy that same Bitcoin on Coinbase. So if a trader is going to be buying, once a year or more than that, it makes absolutely no sense to go on Coinbase and pay 1% fees when you could do the same thing and pay 0.25% per year to have that same exact Bitcoin holding, especially if you're new and don't really understand the benefits of having your own coins or don't care enough to custody your own coins. So what I think will happen is Coinbase will have pressure from these ETFs solely for Bitcoin to drop their prices in fees. And we could see something like Binance US where Coinbase says, okay, for people buying Bitcoin, the fees will be a flat 0.25% or maybe even less to be competitive against these ETFs. And then for all other coins like Ethereum, Solana, whatever else they have, all 247 other coins, they might keep the fee structure similar or maybe drop it a little bit to incentivize people to trade more on Coinbase instead of another exchange. But for Bitcoin, I absolutely see Coinbase dropping that fee soon because they have to stay competitive with these other ETFs.